Welcome to We Sing the Bass Electric, a podcast for bass lovers and music enthusiasts of all genres. Join us as we revisit some of the most iconic recordings from different bassists, past and present, discussing behind-the-scene insight and stories that made up some of the most revered albums of our time, all from a bass player's point of view. Now here's your host, international recording artist, Mr. Christian de Mesones, aka Big New York.
Welcome to part two of my conversation with bassist and founding member of the classic rock band Heart, Steve Fossen. We pick up our discussion with Steve's memory of one of the largest outdoor festivals in rock and roll history, California Jam 2, and also what happened the night Steve was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You have two iconic moments in your career. Where you were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2013, which I did read that you were like a kid in a candy store, man. I did some research about, I've read some articles about how you couldn't sleep, and I just found that to be very, very cool. But also, your performance at California Jam in 1978, which I did watch on ABC in concert, and I have some great memories of that performance. Do you have any cool stories from either of those events that you'd like to share?
Well, there was so many people and such a gigantic traffic jam at Cal Jam, 1978, that they had to fly us in by helicopter. So we flew over the field, which was, it was the infield of a racetrack. So it was just people, just a sea of people. And I don't know, you'd think you'd be nervous playing for that many people, but we were, we kind of talked about it when we were coming up through the ranks, and what you're actually doing is you're playing for one person at a time. So if you think of it like you're trying to impress that person there, well, if you impress that person, then everyone's going to be impressed in the same way. So anyway, you're nervous and you're excited, and you just think, wow, that's pretty cool that we've been invited to do this, and backstage, all the other artists that you met, and it was like being in a big rock band. It's like being a rock star.
Well, that's what you are. So you didn't get into any political discussions with Ted Nugent back then?
He was hanging around, but I didn't really hear people weren't political in that way back then.
Yeah.
It was everybody was just partying and having a good time, basically, and trying to stay healthy and work hard and be successful.
One of my memories of that performance, which blew my mind later, was a band called Rubicon. And I never forget watching this little dude, man, run backwards and slap the bass. He had these big round glasses on. And, years later, he made his claim to fame with Night Ranger and then Damn Yankees. But it wasn't until I was in a record store and I saw a Rubicon album, and I'm looking at the cover and I see, holy crap, it's Jack Blades, man. And it's Brad Gillis. I'm like, and I'm like, I didn't put it together, man. But did you know Jack Blades back then? Did you have a relationship with any of those guys?
No, but oddly enough, Jack lives, within 50 miles of Seattle right now.
Okay.
He lives on Whidbey Island, and we've run into him at parties, and he jams at parties that we jam at and stuff. So he's a great guy. Did you want to hear anything like a story about the Hall of Fame?
Absolutely.
Well, at the time, I was on chemotherapy.
Oh.
And I was on prednisone and chemotherapy, and before the show, we were supposed to have dinner. So we get to the place where the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame had reserved our place for dinner. Well, somebody else had used my name and got my spot for dinner. So I had to sit through the whole Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on an empty stomach with all this chemo stuff coursing through my body. And so I just didn't feel like I could speak, to tell you the truth.
That is a very deep story, Steve. Does anybody know that story? Are you sharing this for the first time?
Yeah, it's probably the first time, one of the first times. Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That is a very, very meaningful and deep story. And you know what? As we get older, man, I mean, every day is a gift, and so many of us, we're living with situations that we keep inside that we try to, not
Yeah,
share with the public.
yeah, and I'm not one of those people that's going to say, "Hey, oh, to feel sorry for me or anything." But I
Yeah.
didn't say that for people to feel sorry for me. I just said that because that's you asked, and that's how I felt at the time. And I just, like I said, I just didn't feel like I could speak coherently. It was going to be hard enough just to play.
Yeah, so that leads me to my next question. How did you play if you were weak like that? And you know, how did you
Well,
pull that off?
I I don't know. I just the moment took over. I remember I was standing on stage, and you could see Tom Petty and Quincy Jones, and all and Jack Nicholson, all these stars, Oprah Winfrey, everybody's out there, and you're just feeling like, wow, this is amazing. And it just so happened that Jan Wenner was sitting like right in front of me,
Mhm.
and he had the biggest smile on his face, like, because he was responsible for, I mean, he kind of, I don't know, he wasn't responsible for us getting into the Hall of Fame, but he was happy that he had the Hall of Fame, and the situation was there for Hart to, have a reunion on the Hall of Fame stage. And the smile he had was so big and so genuine. And I just, every time I'd start to feel a little sad or a little weak or something, I'd look out there and see Jan, and it just brought me up.
So you only did one song, correct? You only performed
Yes.
one song on it? Right,
Yes. Yeah.
okay.
We all felt like we should have played Barracuda too, because Roger Fisher and Mike DeRozier are co-writers of Barracuda.
Mhm.
And I don't know. It was an opportunity that was that slipped by, in my opinion. And
Mhm.
I think Ann and Nancy wanted to give a little credit to her, little props to their band that they'd been touring with for a while. But the opportunity was there for us to play Barracuda, and it passed us
Yeah.
by, basically.
Yeah, it's a sticky situation, isn't it? I've attended a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction at the Barclay in Brooklyn to see my band Kiss. I grew up with Kiss. I'm a Brooklyn kid, and I was really, really happy to be there to support the band that brought rock and roll into my life. Like for you, it was the Beatles. For me, it was Kiss. Kiss was a big thing for me. But tell me more. Tell me something else, man. I
Okay,
want to hear.
well, of course, Summer and I went there
Uh-huh.
together, and a friend of ours who was on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame board, he had a private jet, and he flew us down there. And we stayed in the Ritz-Carlton right across the street from the Nokia Theater, which in Los Angeles, where it was held. And we'd be sitting around, and we hear knock on the door, and there'd be some flowers, and then a little while later, a knock on the door, and there'd be a basket of fruit, and a little while later, a basket of chocolates. And so all this stuff is going on. We had limos, 24/7 if we needed them, and whatever. But the thing that I remember, and so we went down there a couple of days early, and the day before the actual show and induction ceremony, Hart had a rehearsal. This was the first rehearsal that we had to play Crazy on You.
Mhm.
And we were told, okay, so it's just going to be, because Howard lives in Los Angeles, and of course Roger had his girlfriend, and I had Summer. But we were told we were only allowed to be there, just us. It was supposed to be private. So so it was just Howard and Raj and I and Mike. We get down, we get in the limo, and we drive to the place, and we get there. and we're kind of futzing around with the gear and everything and figuring out what we're, getting the settings on the amps and stuff. And in walks Nancy's entourage, her total entourage. She had her, her husband, her dogs, her friends, or their handlers. Everybody was with her. And then Ann comes in a little while later, and she's got all of her, the same thing with her. So they all had their support group, support people with them, and we were just there on our own, and because we were told not to bring anybody. We thought that was weird, but when we played Crazy on You, of course, they could have recorded that the very first time we played Crazy on You, and it was perfect, top to bottom.
And you haven't played that together in how many years?
It had to be 30, 35 years, maybe.
35 years you haven't played that song together with the original lineup. And that says something. That says something.
Yeah.
It always bothered me that Heart was, to me, marketed as a chick band to me. I mean, growing up, I'm listening to some great bands, a lot of male-oriented bands, of course, right?
Yeah.
But I always thought that Heart was a band, not two women and then hired guns. I always felt that the band was a real band. You guys wrote the songs together, correct?
Yes,
right?
we certainly did. Yes, we did.
So it was a real band, and then somehow, somewhere, it was marketed as, almost as these two women, and you guys were the backup guys, and I never dug that. It bothered me.
Yeah, well, it didn't sit well with us either, and it created some tense, more tension that you need, because before we made it big, that's the way it was. It was, and like I was trying to explain during the recording of Dreamboat Annie, that's the way it was. It was all of us pulling together. We were all, it was like we were all on the same team, pulling, helping each other, because we knew we wanted to be successful. And then as soon as we got successful, and then all of a sudden, Ann and Nancy kind of started moving away from being part of a band to being, a sister act or whatever.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and most of the time that I was in the band, it wasn't that bad. But I mean, certainly after Mike and I left the band, and especially after Howard left, it got to the point where it was all about Ann and Nancy. And nowadays, I mean, I remember listening to classic radio here in Seattle, and they would they'd play a Heart song like Even It Up, or, Crazy, or Love Alive, or something. And they wouldn't even call it Heart. They say, hey, there's Ann and Nancy Wilson. And, but it was us. It was us. We did the tracks, So it was kind of weird. But then, thank God and thank goodness that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame recognized the fact that it was a band, and that Ann and Nancy, Roger, Howard, Mike, and Steve were it was a band. It wasn't just, Ann and Nancy Wilson.
Do you, I mean, before the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame event, were you still on speaking terms with the sisters, or no?
Well, if I saw Nancy at the grocery store or something, yeah, I'd say hi and we'd chat a little bit. But
no late night chats, man.
No. And which is weird, because when Ann, Roger and Ann and I, we had a band, a kind of a club band together before we moved to Canada, and formed the version of Heart that was successful. And Ann was a regular person. I mean, we'd sit around and joke and laugh, and just do normal things, go out and go out for dinners and lunches and all that kind of stuff, and hang out. And one time I remember we did a gig over in Eastern Washington, and we all floated down this irrigation ditch together, and who knows what the water contained, but but we did it anyway. And it was we were all just, it was it was friends,
Yeah.
people being friends, and there was a band, and the band, you know how bands work. They were all friends. They get along and they have fun, and then they get on stage and they kick ass. You know, so
Yeah.
to this day, you know, I mean, I always love my bandmates. You know, and there's, you know, and when you love somebody, it's kind of unconditional in a way, and you know, you just love and appreciate, you know, what everybody brings to the table.
Absolutely.
And that's how I felt about Ann. I thought, you know, I thought she was a great singer and she was a great person. And
Yeah, she still is. She's a phenomenal singer,
she
phenomenal
is,
talent.
yes, she is. She's
Yeah.
got the brains, she's got the will, and she's got the chops. So she's
Yeah.
great.
Tell us what's in store for Steve Fossen in the future, and how can fans stay connected with you?
Well, what's in store? Okay. So obviously this, I mean, to put this in perspective, I mean, the pandemic is winding down because of the vaccines and everything. Um, and now the phone is starting to ring as far as gigs go. So we every day we're getting more calls and more opportunities to go out and play. So Heart by Heart is going to be doing, um, you know, booking as many shows as we can. And this year is starting to fill up a little bit. And of course, we already have shows that were postponed many times, but now they're going to be in 2022. So we'll be out to Heart by Heart. We'll be out, and you know, you can get a hold of Heart by Heart through heartbyheartband.com or heartbyheart.com and then email us through heartbyheartband.com. And I know I'll just be out there. We people don't seem to have any trouble getting a hold of me, that's for sure.
I was really thankful that you responded to me. I just started this podcast about 6 months, and I don't know if you've done any research, but I kind of interviewed a lot of my heroes and a lot of people that I grew up with, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, you know.
I love doing this stuff, and I'm very, you know, honored and pleased that people, you know, want to speak to me about it.
Well, I'm very thankful to you, man. Really.
Yeah, well, it
Really.
was great to meet you. I'd love to run into you. I mean, we've been to New York a few times doing those showcases for different outfits, and we did a show in Long Island up at the theater up at the very tip of Long Island. Hey, and the restaurants do not stay open very late there.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, but I don't live in New York anymore. I live in Northern Virginia. So if you're playing at, you'll probably be booked at the Birchmere, most likely. Have you played the Birchmere before?
No, we have not.
Okay,
Love
that's
to.
probably the place that you'll be. If you get a gig in Northern Virginia, you'll probably hit that place because
Okay, and what city would that be near?
that's near Alexandria.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah.
we actually played Virginia a few times, but it was for a private. It was a private gig for a corporation. 2020 was a great year on the books, but as the gigs got closer and closer, they got canceled or postponed or whatever, you know. So we haven't even. We had some great 4th of July things, a couple of gigs planned around there, and we were going to do it this year, but then now it's postponed until 2022.
Mm.
We're not even doing a 4th of July this year.
Well, Steve, thank you for spending your time with me.
I look forward to doing these kind of things because, you know, back in the day, like we were talking about earlier, I mean, everybody was focused on Ann and Nancy. Well, now, you know, they're starting to realize that, you know, us guys contributed in a big way to the whole success of Heart. So I'm glad that people are starting to realize that, and I can tell my story, which is great.
I always knew it, Steve. I always knew it.
Me too.
Well, have a wonderful evening, and hopefully let's keep in touch. At least let me know if you get any gigs in my area.
If you enjoyed this educational
love
music
to
program,
come down and
please
support.
subscribe to We Sing the Bass Electric on your favorite podcast platform.
All right, have a good night, Steve. Take care.
Email
Thank
us
you.
at
Right.
WeSingTheBassElectric@gmail.com for bonus material and a chance to win merchandise such as autographed CDs and more. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and join our mailing list at WeSingTheBassElectric.com. As always, thank you for your support. And please buy music from these spotlighted artists. It makes a difference.